Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Okay, so it's been in Cincinnati. Hold on, wait. Yeah, all right, cool. So one of the things I have tried to do over this last few weeks before training camp is kind of touch base with what's going on with every team in AFC North, the storylines, because it's easy to get wrapped up in your own stuff. But Cincinnati is one of those ones where I was like, wow, this is just coming at a perfect time here for me to bring Ace onto the show, because it seems like there's just a lot going on with Cincinnati. They have basically two of the more notable holdouts in the NFL going on, both at the edge rush position on their team, right? They got Shamar Stewart holding out on his rookie deal, and they have Trey Henderson right now, in a battle with Bengals management there. And to talk about it, we have Ace Boogie. Ace, what's going on with Cincinnati, man? Like, why? Well, first question here is with the Shamar Stewart thing, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is the long-term benefit of this stubbornness? Because I can't help but think that this is just going to bite Cincinnati in the ass in the long run if he ends up being a good player, which you would assume they think he's going to be a good player. They drafted him in the first round.
Right.
So it seems like operating like this is going to be something that's going to come back. Like, he'll sign his rookie deal eventually. I don't really think he's going to, and we talked about this even before the show. It's not very likely he just sits out and, and chills for a year and gets redrafted next year, knowing how the league operates too. That's a huge risk. So he's probably going to sign that deal. He's just going to be very unhappy about it every time he looks at it for 4 years, and then you're going to come asking him about an extension, hopefully, if you're the Bengals, right? Like, I that's what I think this situation is probably going to boil down to. But, like, do you see, is there, is Katie Blackburn working some magic here that I'm not seeing about, like, some kind of long-term benefit? Because it feels like this is just about haggling about the guarantees in the contract. Like, it's not even really something that's going to truly affect your cap reality that drastically.
Yeah, I don't think it works good for both sides. And I think, there's been people on both sides that have kind of admitted that. I don't think it's going to work out with this guy because Shamar Stewart, as talented as he is, there was a production question there, right? Like 3 sacks and however many seasons, 4 sacks in 3 seasons total within his college career. So a lot from my perspective, I understand it, but I don't from his perspective. Like, if you're a player that is unproven somewhat and there's a question mark and you're talking to people saying about development is key and being with the coaches is key, then I would think that you would want to be in camp, right? From the Bengals perspective on things, this clause is not new for the NFL. Like, the Eagles did it. Abdul Carter signed it. Like, there's 23 teams in the NFL have this same clause, same exact clause. And the clause essentially is, and that's where there's a lot of confusion coming in. And Mike Brown tried to clear up, I guess, his perspective on it. The clause is they can void guarantees for future years, right? And Mike Brown was saying the only time we're going to do that is in the event that you do something like domestic violence, you go to prison. I don't feel like I should have to pay somebody that's going to prison in terms of an NFL contract, which makes sense. It seems like from Shamar Stewart's side, they acknowledge that Mike Brown, I heard some stuff yesterday. He said that Mike Brown didn't say anything wrong, but he needs to talk about the beginning level when those guarantees get removed. That is what his lawyer or his agent is fighting for. His agent also doesn't have the best rep either. He's a guy that used to represent Dalvin Cook, caused a lot of issues, got Dalvin Cook ran out of Minnesota, used to be Zay Flowers' agent. Zay Flowers ended up firing him. And even before this whole draft process and the Bengals even drafted him, Todd McShay is on record as saying that he spoke with assistant GMs that were wondering what was up with this agent because he was making it difficult for, pre-scheduled draft visits and stuff to happen. He was saying that Shamar's not going to work out. Very similar stuff to the stuff that Shamar's not going to practice and stuff like that. And so it comes down to this. And for me, he's kind of trying to strong arm the Bengals. Now, the Bengals wanted to shift this to this kind of language that everybody else is doing this season. Their side has had an argument that, hey, you drafted Amarius Mims last year, who was drafted a pick later than Shamar Stewart this season or last season, and you didn't make him do it. Well, the Bengals are coming back and saying, hey, there's people in this draft class like Abdul Carter that you were not, that have agreed to this same kind of terminology in their contract, and everybody's doing it. This is just the first year that we're doing it. The weirdest part about that is...
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think it makes a difference from the Shamar Stewart side? The Abdul Carter has had like a history, right, where he did have the assault charge, right, on the boot man.
Yes.
Now, I got no problem with beating up the boot man, but he did have that charge on him, which could make him more like understanding to why that would be in there. But I don't know if Shamar has like any kind of off the field incident like that. Like, do you think that factored into why it is that he
I could see
that?
But this is just a standard for the Eagles. So whether it's Abdul Carter or anybody else with the Eagles, anybody with the Eagles is agreeing to that. Like, anybody that signs their contract is agreeing to that clause.
Do you mean Jahad Campbell or you mean the Giants?
No, I'm just saying, so like 23 of the 32 NFL teams right now all currently have this clause that the Bengals are trying to put in their contracts. The Bengals are now trying to become the 24th team in the NFL to do this. So another example, Walter Nolan, that got drafted right before, they have that same contract. He agreed to the same clause. So their issue is, and this is where it gets weird because, you know, I mean, it is a public space. It was on Twitter. His representation or somebody close to him was saying, oh, yeah, the Bengals can go ahead and put that in next year because that draft pick will be in the 30s and this and that, and they should be able to accept it then. So it's kind of weird because they're like, we don't want you to start the precedent with us, but we are we're not going to accept it. But to me, it sounds like, because they kind of pressed him yesterday on, is he going back to college? Is that an option? That's a big risk that you're taking there. And it seems like their path is just, we want to be a Cincinnati Bengal. Let's make it happen. I don't see the Bengals caving on this, like, especially for a rookie. Like, and I've said this several times, the only rookie in Bengals history that's really had leverage to be able to say, I'm not doing this, has been Joe Burrow. Like, if you're a quarterback or someone like that, a franchise-changing guy,
Carson Palmer,
they can do whatever. Like, Joe Burrow got them to spend money in free agency, like Carson Palmer. It's not going to happen for Shamar Stewart. And I think that right now he's just honestly out of options. Like, another big part of the leverage, right, is that Trey Hendrickson isn't in camp. If Trey Hendrickson signed his deal, he would have absolutely no leverage. I don't think that it's going to work out for the Bengals. I don't think that it's going to work out for Shamar Stewart. Like, if you're a player with question marks and you couldn't translate pressures to sacks at the collegiate level, and you need help on doing that at the pro level, like, how are you going to do that without being in camp? How are you going to do that without doing it? And the other thing is he's working out at Texas A&M, which makes sense because they have $1 million facilities. And his dad was like, you know, we don't want to have to go out of pocket and stuff for that. But it's like, dude, you could be doing the same thing for the Bengals. But I don't know. Like, at this stance, I don't think that it's going to help either side. I think that for the Bengals, you still have Myles Murphy there. So he was going to be in a battle with Myles Murphy, I think, to start. Anyway, obviously, we still have questions about Myles Murphy. So that was going to be a good competition. But I think right now, it's not going to work out for the Bengals. It's a big distraction right now. And it's just annoying at this point because now he's one of the only two guys that are unsigned. And like I said, bro, the situation keeps getting weirder and weirder. People are pulling up clips from DDG, of all people, getting into it with his agent. His agent basically tried to hold a beat that the Pink Dreads beat or something like that for DDG. Ransom tried to like smack him over the head in terms of charging him money and stuff like that. It was a big thing. It's on Twitter. I don't know. His agent is like all over the place. He's in the music industry. He's in the football stuff. I don't know. Some people say that he's a bottle guy. I don't know. A lot of people are coming for his agent right now.
To be fair, like, if you look at Eddie Age's history for the most part, like, this is like, I'm just going to be honest with you. That's not a job you get, like, because you work through the trenches and, you know, it's not like a law firm job. Like, that's one of them jobs you end up with, right? And that's no disrespect to an agent. It's just a very much you know somebody, one of your cousins a hustler, so like maybe you could be an agent type thing. That's how Rich Paul got here, right?
Right.
Like
Facts.
it's so like I get whenever you look into an agent's history, especially like if it's more of a more of an aggressive agent, you probably gonna find something in there you don't like. That's why the dude the agent, right?
Yeah.
Like
Facts.
he'd be a
Facts.
corporate lawyer
Yeah.
if he didn't have any of that pop up. So yeah, it's agents are always a tricky game to play, right? Like it's the agents are never like warriors for the labor class, right?
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of like, oh, we're holding it down for the rookie class, but they just don't want to be the first ones with this clause, right? Like they know
Right.
next year it's gonna happen no matter
Right.
what. It is interesting, this Shamar Stewart thing, because it's it like I can see where they're like, dog, why us? And I guess that's the
Hmm.
part that's interesting here is it's a similar pick to what they use with Mims, and they had no problem giving Mims the regular rookie contract or whatever
Hmm.
it is that they want. And then it's like you draft Shamar, and it's like, why is it us?
Hmm.
And the thing that's confusing about it is every argument you could say for why it should be Shamar makes you ask the question, why did you draft him? Right?
Right.
Like, so like do the Bengals like really believe in this guy at the same rate that they believed in somebody like Amarius Mims last year? Or is there some disconnect there between where they selected him and where they viewed him? Like, do they
Hmm.
internally they view him as a reach?
Yeah.
Because this screams to me that they might view him as a reach and they just took
Hmm.
him because he was the best edge available. They needed edge.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure where the Bengals feel in terms of how good they feel about Shamar. I think everything we've heard, from a scout's perspective, and that could be coach speak. And of course, they're not going to, trash a pick that they made. I think that this is more so. This is my thinking on it is they are trying to lessen the amount of risk that they can going forward. Being that they've committed so much money to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, possibly Trey Hendrickson, I think they're just trying to protect themselves in an event that they really think is not likely. Like Mike Brown has said that he's like, as long as I've been here, we've never had domestic violence issue or anything like that. Now the Bengals have had issues, right? Like you go back to
Mhm.
the early 2000s, they've had players get in trouble with the law and stuff like that. And even he's sitting here saying like he doesn't see it being something that happens like that. I don't think that it's a lack of trust in Shamar per se. I just think going forward with these rookies, if it's going to be an investment that they make and they end up in, Lord forbid, a Henry Ruggs situation or something like that, they want to be able to cut their losses from that perspective because of the guarantees that they're going to have to put in with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, any of those future guys. So I think that's what their, I guess, plan is going forward, is to kind of protect themselves from those kind of situations, which they don't seem to think is likely. Like unless Jamar Stewart is hiding something character wise, like he doesn't appear to be a guy that has had any kind of off the field issues. He doesn't have like a Des Bryant type background where people
Yeah.
are like looking into his past or anything. It just is, this is the standard going forward. And I think it's more so a standard that they're trying to do with their contracts, more so than it just being a Shamar Stewart thing.
Yeah, I can see that. You're gonna have inevitable questions about the first guy you try that shit on, right? Like that's
Yeah,
gonna
for
be
sure.
like,
For
why you
sure.
think you could try this on me? Which is what they're running up against, and it is interesting. The Bengals are like, hey, this dude with the agent that's known for getting into confrontations with people. This
Mhm.
the dude we gonna try it
We
on.
gonna do it with.
Like, and
Yeah.
maybe they thought they could just win the PR battle, right?
Yeah.
Because this agent has a shifty history. He's arguing with what's his name? DDG?
DDG.
Yeah, okay. I've never heard him pop up in the news for good things. But like, like, okay, cool. Sure. Maybe you can win that battle. And they know they're fighting the perception of being the Bengals, right? Like, okay, they
Mhm.
have a history with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Katie Blackburn does not have a great reputation on this. Also, her name just sounds like somebody who's going to haggle you out of some of the money you've earned. Like
Yeah.
Miss Blackburn, don't you feel like she about to out of like a promotion, like one bonus? You just don't get a bonus, or like she tried to take his vacation days, some
Oh
shit
yeah.
like that. Like, so it's a lot going on there, and then you have this ongoing situation with Trey Hendrickson, which
Mhm.
adds to it, and it just ends up being a situation where I think I don't really look at the Shamar Stewart thing that deeply. On Shamar's side, I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
he wants what he wants. Bengals aren't giving it to him. Doesn't seem like there's a huge reason to not do it if you're the Bengals, but they don't want to do it for whatever reason. That looks bad on Cincinnati. But if you're a diehard Bengal fan, if you're in the weeds, this is going to be something that inevitably annoys you about Shamar Stewart, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Regardless of if you were a fan of him being drafted there or not, he was already a controversial pick. And then if you're Cincinnati, it's like, what's the win here at this point? Like, if you can slide this in and nobody was going to fight it, that's what the goal was. But if somebody starts fighting it, you can just wait to do this until you get to a situation where it's like, hey, this guy's not going to fight that. Like, and then we could say after that, we did this last year. And then maybe you got the 10th pick in like 3 years. You're like, we've done this the last 3 years. There's really no argument. They fold. It's over. But it's like, why?
Because I think they feel like if they give in to Shamar Stewart's demands, and that's how Mike Brown and they have always operated. I think they feel like if they give in to the demands, which is something that Trey Hendrickson is honestly trying to do now, because Bengals have historically not given many people outside of the quarterback position. They've actually only done it one time, guaranteed money past the first year. They did it with Jamar Chase, right? Because they did that with Jamar Chase, now Trey Hendrickson is like, hey, I need that guaranteed money outside of the first year too. So I think the way that they're thinking is, if they cave into Shamar saying no, what's to stop the person next year from saying no? What's to stop anybody else from saying no? Because if they do that, then they kind of feel like, all right, who's going to stop somebody else from doing it?
I get that point, right? Like, they're at the point now where they have to haggle. But my whole thing is like, before this became a big story, when you realize it wasn't going to go the way that you wanted, you didn't have to make it a story, right? Like, you could have just been like, all right, let's just let him sign a rookie deal. Let's just move on. We'll do this next year, where it's not going to be a big thing. But now that it's a big thing, if he doesn't sign it, then you're right. That guy next year is going to be like, well, what what's going on?
Now that it's a story, like you said, if it wasn't a story, then the next guy next year probably doesn't know. He probably just signs it.
But now everybody gonna be like, oh yeah, you gotta watch out for the Bengals, right? Like, and it's gonna be a thing. And now you can't cave if you're Cincinnati. I feel like this was a situation they kind of put themselves in by deciding to fight this out. And maybe they thought Shamar would just cave immediately. But once he said what he said about like the team having his back in this shit, and like basically left camp, like, it was like, all right, bro, like, don't let this become a big thing. So, and now it's
so his dad addressed that. His dad tried to say that he didn't leave camp. He was just saying he went there the last day, and after the last day, he went back to he was supposed to go to Miami, but I think he went to Texas instead. So he was saying that he was there for the last camp, but it was reported that he just it was like he left camp. It was like, no, he just left Cincinnati after the camp. So he didn't actually leave the camp itself, apparently. Apparently that's what his dad is saying. I don't know. At this point, I'm just like, whatever we hear from Shamar Stewart's side is all over the place. And I don't know, because like the agent is going to talk to the media. So a lot of these stories are coming from the agent, but like some of the people close to him, like his dad and stuff, are refuting some of these reports that are out there. And that was one of the main ones. He was like, oh, yeah, it was being reported that he just went home, and that's not what happened. He went to camp the last day, and then he just decided to go to Texas or whatever to train instead of coming back home to Miami. And so it's been a lot, bro. It's been a lot, like he say, she say, a lot of telephone stuff. And with the Bengals, we only hear from Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn and them once a year, and that's at the Mock Turtle Soup, which just happened. So, like, a lot of narratives can get easily put on them because they're not going to come out and say, no, this wasn't said, or you're not going to hear exactly from what the Bengals perspective is, but you're always going to hear what the other side is. And it is, like I said, it's weird because his dad was in the space talking about he's going to be a Bengal. He's staying here. He's not looking at his other options. While he's in that space, I'm seeing a Tom Pelissero tweet talking about his agent saying that he's got NIL offers for us. So at this point, I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the whole narrative situation.
last thing I'll say on this is the reason I find it super unlikely that he sits out is one, it is a huge risk, right? Sitting out the
Yeah.
year. But I believe your contract will be still based on where you get drafted that year. So, like, is he going to be a top 15 pick after sitting out a year, right? And already having open contract negotiations? Probably not. You're probably talking about slipping to the second, third round. And no matter what Cincinnati's doing with that contract, it's probably preferable to falling to the second, third round because he just plays a position where, and he's not a unique enough case to where he would just jump up boards after missing football for a year. And also, crucially, being a year older, right? Like, so the idea, I know a lot of people like, it's easy to say, oh, he's just going to go chill at home for a year and just sit at home. He's not going to do that. Right? Like that's not going to happen. There's a reason that does not happen very often. I always talk about it too. Like every year there's a shitty team that has the number 1 overall pick and they're like, oh, that guy's not going to play there. Yeah, he is. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Joe Burrow ain't gonna play it since. Yeah, he is. What are you talking about? Everybody knows it. Well, Eli Manning was moved this way. I was like, because the Chargers were okay with it. Like, that's why it was able to happen. They like Phillip Rivers just as much. And like, fine, we won't draft you. But if they really wanted Eli, guess where Eli would have played? Sunny San Diego, California, right? Sure. Like there's not a lot of power in being drafted. That's the whole purpose of it. And yeah, I think Shamar is just probably going to have to do it. I think this is more than less going to resolve itself if he gets a second contract. What his demands are going to be, because you're not going to win a battle of like, hey man, we need you to take one for the team after you did this with me, right? Like for sure. That he's already thinking about going at this point, right? Like he's had conversations and said things to the media. I'm like, that sounds like somebody who's already like, yeah, man, year 3, I will try to get traded. And I think that's the risk the Bengals are running. Like, hey, how good do you think this guy's going to be? Because if this guy, let's say he does like live up to his physical potential and like, starts producing at the level that you expect somebody at his size and athletic ability to produce at, and he's like, by the time it's time to negotiate a contract, he don't want nothing to do with you.
Right.
It's like, well, what did you like? I think the benefit of this is just very minimal.
It is a bad, like you said, like right now it's at that point where if he does go out and perform, you're pretty much expecting that this guy isn't signing the second contract.
And then he look at that trade knowing you're not about to pay for that. Right? Which brings us to the Trey Henderson thing. It's interesting seeing people like argue for it. I just am at the point where it's like, do y'all like at this point Trey Henderson's gonna be the best player in your defense. You have a Super Bowl window with Joe Burrow. And yeah, he signed a deal. You could be principled on that. And again, I think this is part of what they don't want to break certain norms. And then these stories get so big to where it can't just slide under the rug anymore, right? Like it's going to be a thing. But Trey's not asking you to break the seal, right? As you pointed out. He's just asking to be a part of it. And that's the thing that I find interesting is that the Bengals feel like Jamar and T can be worth it. Well, Jamar especially is worth it. And obviously, I think Jamar's better at his position than Trey is, right? I think Jamar's the best wide receiver in football. But Trey's in the conversation for best edges, and I'm going to be biased here, not named Myles Garrett, right? Like, in that conversation, like, other than Myles, he's in that convo, right? And we just saw TJ Watt get a bunch of money. I think amongst those who truly pay attention to defensive line play, this is not a controversial statement, but this will make some people mad. I don't think it's like debatable that Trey Henderson was better than TJ last year. Like I think it was straight up. He was better than TJ last year. And he's seeing TJ get his money. And he's still out here like contemplating whether he should just play on $16 million. What TJ about to play on like 45?
Yeah, I think TJ is average money. I think it's 41 or something like that. I think so. The Trey Henderson thing, I believe Trey is worth every dollar. I think he's earned it. I think this was a situation where you got really lucky in free agency when you signed Trey Henderson because they lost Carl Lawson, I believe, that offseason. Carl Lawson didn't accept the deal that they presented to him. Trey Henderson did. And at that time, he was a top 100 player, but he was just for the first time making the list. I still remember the narratives. A lot of
Oh
people thought that
yeah,
he was a
I was
Cam
talking
Jordan
shit.
merchant.
I thought he was Paul Kruger. Like I'll stand on it. I was wrong.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it wasn't just you. It was a lot of Bengals fans when we first signed him that, said that he had fake sacks, like notable, like supposed to be analysts and stuff. They were saying he had fake sacks. There were people saying he was a Cam Jordan merchant. And I always liked, what I saw from Trey Hendrickson, but he overperformed, contrary to the contract that he was provided. The Bengals got a
mm-hmm.
steal. He was honestly, he's probably the best free agent signing in Bengals history. Like, I wanted to say DJ Reader, but Trey Hendrickson has been better from that perspective. And they ended up looking into an all pro. And to me, he accepted the offer because at that time he wasn't a known commodity. And then after he had a good season, the Bengals tried to give him additional years, which he agreed to, but it was still to the point where he wasn't as paid. Like his first year on his first contract, essentially there was only 1 year guaranteed, right? So what the Bengals did is they tried to give him that extension to throw him a little bone, give him some more guaranteed money, and say, hey, we understand that you feel like you didn't sign a great contract. Let's reward you. They did that. Now the issue became once he hit 30, this always happens with all kind of Bengals players because they still feel PTSD from when they extended Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins when they were in their 30s. And it didn't go well for them, right? Like Carlos Dunlap ended up being traded. He didn't fall off a complete cliff like Geno Atkins did, but Geno Atkins fell off a complete cliff, right? It was a waste of money. Geno Atkins was never the same. And so and before that, they didn't pay guys that hit 30. And so then they broke precedent and they were like, all right, we're going to play Geno and Dunlap, 30 when they're 30, and it backfired on them. So ever since then, that kind of led to we're not keeping Andrew Whitworth kind of thing. That's how that debacle all kind of went. It had nothing to do with his play. It had to do with his age. Like they get nervous when players touch 30. That's usually when they cut players. That's usually when they let them go in free agency. And so they're up against that. That's one of the big things in this Trey Hendrickson situation is with him turning 31, they're thinking if we give this guy all of this money, he's going to fall off a cliff. I personally don't think he is. I think even if Trey Hendrickson was to fall back a little, you're still talking about a double-digit sack guy, right? You're at least talking about 10 sacks. He just gave you 17. So for me, from my perspective, I think we've seen it around the division. I mean, you talk about Cam Hayward, some of these guys, like everybody isn't going to be the situation where they're going to fall off a cliff once they hit 30. And I think that's where the Bengals are thinking. And the other thinking is Trey Hendrickson was always the third priority in line with these free agents that we had, or not free agents, but extensions that we had. Jamar Chase obviously was number one. He was going to be able to command whatever he wanted because that's Joe's main guy. He's one of the franchise players outside of Joe. And then they were able to finesse T with Jamar Chase, right? Jamar Chase was able to finagle that situation, them having the same agent, working that out so that both of them were there. That was the main priority. At that point, they weren't even talking to Trey and his representation because they were focused on getting those guys done. Now, it appears from the reports that came out, this was finally the first like real deal negotiation of offers being sent back and forth. Nothing has changed from Trey's side. Trey doesn't want to be the highest paid, which highest paid doesn't necessarily mean highest paid, but he doesn't want to be the highest paid edge rusher, but he does want the guarantees, and he feels like he's deserved them. He feels like him kind of somewhat playing on a discount. He's earned them. He doesn't feel like he should have to have any kind of escalators or Bengals have to make a Super Bowl for me to get this. And I believe he's right. I don't think Trey is wrong at all when it comes to that. Now, there's been several deals flirted out there. Now, another thing that Trey wanted was years. Bengals were willing to give him a boost for 1 year. Trey does not want that. Trey wants at least the ability to know that it's going to be a multi-year contract. He wants to know that he's retiring a Bengal. That's his biggest thing is the years and the guarantees within those years. He doesn't want a 3-year deal with just the first year guarantee. He wants guarantees in year 2 and year 3. He wants to just know that he's got those guarantees. And for him, it's a respect thing because he's came out, he's balled out, he has requested trades here and there, but he hasn't been disrespectful to the organization. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where he's at with it. The Bengals, I think they could potentially cave on the guarantees. And I think Goodberry brought this up. One thing that they did with T. Higgins was it sounds weird because they didn't guarantee T. Higgins' first year because he was franchised at first, right? But the guarantees do go into year 2. And so what Goodberry and some people think could be a compromise of something that the Bengals have done is give him guarantees in year 1 and year 2. And then year 3 is if you fall off of a cliff, it is what it is. Now, they offered him
It'll be
apparently
and like, because for people who don't know, the way they probably structure would be, guarantees for maybe the first 2 years, but a lot of the guarantees are given probably in the first year.
yes.
And then like half of there would be on the books probably like if he makes 30, 12 guaranteed that second year. Then that third year would probably be like 35, but no guarantee. So it's like, if he's still balling, you just keep him at the 35.
Right.
And then if he's not, then you can cut him and probably only have lose like 2 million in dead cap, but you would net 33.
Right. So basically they offered him, that's what he's looking for, that deal that you just kind of put out there. The only thing they've offered him is 1 year with a huge bonus. So I think he would end up being at like 35. So they would move the 16 up. He doesn't like that because he wants more years. The second thing that they offered him, they said, okay, we'll meet you on the years, but we're not meeting you on the guarantees in year 2 and year 3. That's where the issue is, where it stands right now. That is what made him go home. So are the Bengals going to be willing to say, hey, we're going to give you the guarantees in year 2 and year 3? I don't know. At this point, it seems like it's either going to be that, or they're going to give Trey a big bonus for this season, and then he goes off into free agency next season. So that's where I would say the money is when it comes to that. I don't think that they're so far gone that they can't come to it. But if the Bengals have already broken a lot of precedents this offseason, right? Jamar Chase, giving him the guarantees outside of year 1. T. Higgins, a lot of people didn't think that they were going to be able to pay both of them because historically when the Bengals have had 2 players at the same position, they pay one, they let the other one go. So they've already done that, and they're paying the most at that position. Now it's like, are they going to do this third thing with Trey Hendrickson? And that's where I personally believe that they should. A lot of people are like, why not? But it is a roll of the dice. It does seem that Mike Brown has started to step in more now. So Mike Brown seems to have kind of stepped over Katie and kind of involved himself in the situation, and they got the ball rolling. But I don't think Trey is bending off of I'm not paying on 16 million, and he's not playing on anything that is not a multi-year contract. So I think the only thing that he will do that's not multi-year is if he's coming in paying for the 35 this season, and then he gets to get his options in free agency. I hope that it's going to be the multi-year one, but with the Bengals, you just never know. Like, are they going to be willing to break that for Trey? I think Trey is a person that they should do that for. He also mentioned stuff like he wants to be a captain and stuff like that. To me, it would be a bad look for them to not extend Trey Hendrickson and give him what he wants, because this guy has been showing up this offseason on local stations with the Bengals jersey on. Like, he hasn't really been bad mouthing the front office or anything like that. He isn't asking for, which he should be asking for, by the way, in my opinion. He should be asking for the TJ Watt money because he's had better stats than TJ Watt. They're the same age, but he's not asking for that. So to me, it's a bad look for the Bengals if this doesn't end with Trey Hendrickson getting what he wants.
Yeah, and I think the big issue that the Bengals have with Trey, and that Trey will have with the Bengals, this is really just a respect thing, because what Trey wants, and why I think Trey's so adamant about like making it clear that he wants to be a Bengal, is Trey has found himself a place where like he has a NFL home, right? Like this is. He will always be remembered for his time with the Bengals because he had such great seasons there, and he wants to retain that and solidify that. But then, like the Bengals, it feels like they don't really regard him in that same light. When Trey, he owns the top 3 single season sack seasons in Bengals history. Like, he's a Bengals legend already, right? Like, if he never plays a game for the Bengals again, he is a certified Bengal. He's number 1, 2, and 3 in the single season sack book for them, right? And like, if you look at like somebody like Jamar Chase, who obviously is much younger, why he's going to get more money, nobody's debating that. But I mean, Jamar Chase is 1 and 2 on the single season receiving list, right? Like, and I know Trey's not gonna expect that he's gonna get the same amount of respect as Jamar, but like, you want to be in the neighborhood if you've done what Trey has, and it feel like you just treated me like some dude you signed a couple of years ago that was like, what's going on with this, right? Like, you brought up DJ Reader, and it's like, I thought how they did DJ Reader was like not the smartest move in the world. Like, I think if they still had DJ, that would be very beneficial to him. But I wasn't like up in arms because I wasn't like DJ Reader's one of the best defensive tackles in Bengals history. He was good.
Yeah.
Trey Henderson is legitimately one of the best edges y'all have ever had, right? Like, you can make the argument, that he is the best, and you out here playing with his money, and it's like, it don't make no sense to Trey. Like, why are you doing me like this? And I think like he truly wants this to be resolved, and that's the unique thing about both these holdouts. Both of these guys, I would think, would have strong incentive to get these things resolved, right? It seems like the Bengals front office is operating like, well, I'm only doing this, right? In both of these cases. And it's like, on one hand, as a Taurus, I find that kind of stubbornness inspirational. But on the other hand, I understand as a Taurus that kind of stubbornness can kind of be detrimental to your health, right? Like, that's not really the greatest thing in the world to be that stubborn. And it's just fascinating, like, okay, you think Trey Henderson's getting old, so you want to get younger. Okay, I get that. I mean, I don't agree with that decision, but I get the overall philosophy. It's not a new philosophy. But you arguing with the dude you trying to get younger with. So, like, what is going on?
Like, it's been the last couple of years, man. Ever since the Super Bowl year, it's been nothing but this drama. It's been nothing but contract drama.
Your heart of hearts, as a Bengals fan, do you feel like they are truly committed to winning a championship with Joe Burrow in the same way that it feels like Philadelphia is?
No. You don't even have to say another team. No, because guys like Trey Hendrickson, more importantly, the right guard position, like, they should have spent more at that position. I mean, to protect Joe, when it's no brainer, all pros that you need to retain. No, I don't think it needs to be a question at all. And I mean, this guy isn't asking you for top of the market money. T. Higgins didn't ask you for top of the market money. And to me, if you weren't stubborn, you could have just honestly gotten all of this stuff done. It's a lot about being stubborn and not changing your ways. Like, for them to do, like, yes, they had the Geno Atkins situation. They also had another flip side of that situation where Andrew Whitworth left. He was an all-pro level tackle, just like you're saying, felt disrespected by the Bengals. They didn't do it. They sent him to LA. The guy played for 3 or 4 more years, won a Super Bowl against them. So it's like, you have the counterpoint to, hey, it didn't work out this way. Here's another way where it did work out.
Instead of the Rams that year.
It is like,
get sacked at the end of the game. That you know, or do you have to run some JP Ryan out on 4th and 1? You know, at that point, right? Like, it's really this kind of stuff around the edges that make you wonder. Now, here's the harder question, I guess, to answer. Do you believe that Joe Burrow is? We all know he's an elite quarterback, right? Do you think that this is what the Bengals' intent on winning a championship? Do you think that will be enough for a guy like Joe Burrow to win it? Because again, the Eagles, they kind of got to do some of the stuff they're doing, right? Because Jalen Hurts is just not the same quarterback as Joe Burrow, right? But do you think that the current level of perceived effort that you see from Cincinnati, do you think that will be enough to get them over the hump in an AFC that's just filled with future MVPs, right, at the quarterback position?
I think what they're doing right now, I think they're doing a lot more than what they probably didn't do during the Carson era. So I think that it's a lot more than that, because the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase thing, I can't overlook that. but I think they need to draft better. I think like instead of like they're not going to be able to go out there and sign top free agents every single year, right? But they
Mm-hmm.
are going to have to draft better. They're going to have to make sure they're making more hits, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Then they have misses on that side, and I think lately there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of misses. There's not really much Pro Bowl potential guys that are coming to that side of the ball. And I think in order for them to be able to compete for a Super Bowl, the offense is going to be there. I have no questions about the offense at all. But they at least have to get a defense that's in the 20s. They cannot have the worst defenses in the NFL and expect to be able to win a Super Bowl. They cannot let really good players leave. Now, Orlando Brown is probably the only one that I see in the future that could hurt them by leaving. That's somebody that they're going to have to retain. They can't get away with letting a guy like Orlando Brown Jr. walk out after next season. That's just not going to be able to be sustainable for them. I think they can win with Joe Burrow. I think they can do it in a certain fashion, but they need to keep the effort that they kind of had this offseason going and try to retain more than they lose. But the guys that are coming up down the line, me personally, I don't feel like you have to cash out a Cam Taylor-Britt. I don't think that you have to cash out some of these picks until you get to Amarius Mims, who was there last year, and some of those veterans that you have to keep, like Orlando Brown Jr. But it all hinges on they have to draft better. I don't think that they've gotten enough criticism from their draft classes because they haven't been that good. And that's one of the reasons that they've had to go out in free agency and supplement and get guys like Trey Hendrickson, DJ Reader, and some of these guys over the years because the draft classes just haven't been that. Now that you've given Joe and these guys that money, you have to get back to drafting better picks because you're not going to be able to go out in free agency and spend top dollar to bring those guys in.
Okay. Here's a fun hypothetical. We'll end it on this. I don't know why I'm going to end on this, but it just popped in my head. Let's say the Bengals have another disappointing 9-8 season, 10-7. They maybe missed the playoffs by a tiebreaker, right? And it feels like the same issues that popped up with Zach Taylor that have always bothered you with Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
Let's also say, for whatever reason, Kevin Stefanski and the Browns part ways. Do you think the Bengals make the move and go after him?
Kevin Stefanski, I would say no, just because he's kind of his offensive philosophy is running the ball. Our team is built on passing the ball. They're definitely getting rid of Zach Taylor. I think that they consider it, right? I think that they bring him in for an interview. I think he's a better coach than Zach Taylor. I just think the philosophy of what Kevin Stefanski wants to do and Joe Burrow is they're just not aligned on philosophy on offense. So I think Joe Burrow is definitely going to have a say on who that next coach would be. And I don't know if he's picking Kevin Stefanski. I think he respects him, but it would have to be somebody like Mike Martz, like we're just airing the ball out type of coach.
I think here's the thing I would fall on this, right? Joe Burrow knows what Joe Burrow's good at this point in his career. So I don't think he's going to look for somebody who already does what he knows. Like, I think if you're Joe Burrow, as you get older, you're like, I want to take less hits, right? Like, I want to run the ball more, right? I want this run game to be more helpful for me. Right. I think he would probably want somebody more aligned like that. And I think with Kevin, my big concern with him is like, I think he's great with veteran quarterbacks. I don't think I worry about what he is with young quarterbacks because he's not really like Sean McVay, where Sean's going to be in your headset, be like, look for this, check for that. He's going to trust that you know what you're doing. And like Joe, he don't got to do none of that shit with Joe. Joe can just run whatever he wants. I think the big thing there is like, okay, well, you have somebody you could trust with all the other stuff with the offense. And like kind of has a similar demeanor to Joe, where it's like Joe's never really too up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that bothers Joe, like kind of the demeanor of the coaching staff, especially on offense at times, because you've seen it. You've literally seen it where he's like, "What are we celebrating?" Right? Like, yeah, he's a very serious person. I wonder, like, if that would have some appeal to him. And like, if you're Mike Brown, you're probably not like you already don't like spending money for people to sit at home. you're
Yeah.
probably gonna want to spend that money on somebody who has some level of credential. So
Yeah.
like, I'd imagine you would try to be high level retread guy, where it's like either this guy's coach of the year, or he's Mike
Right.
Tomlin, or it's
Right.
like you're looking at Mike McCarthy, which I don't know.
Yeah. No. Nope.
But it is interesting to see what the Bengals' future is going to be. Ace, man, let them know where to find you, where they can watch more of your stuff at.
You can find me on Twitter at New Stripe City. You can also find me on the podcast Cincinnati. So check that out. And then, of course, AFC North Talk with Q, where we do the roundtable talking about the North. We should be back sometime this week talking about quarterbacks over there. So make sure y'all tap in.
Oh, yeah. Get ready to argue. You know, Kenny Pickett, number 3. Just to piss off Jared, right? Just like, yeah, I think Kenny Pickett's number 3. I mean, he's 28 years old, right? Like, I don't even know if he's number 3 in the Browns depth chart, but he's number 3 in the Knicks.
Number 3 in the North.
Yeah. So Browns fans, honestly, I'm gonna be trolling that whole episode. To be honest with you. I got nothing to fight for. Next year I'll be fighting. Well, no, probably like 2 years I'll be fighting, because if we draft somebody next year, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, best quarterback in the North. But let me get one season. We back in there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Make sure you guys go check out AFC North Talk. Make sure you guys go check out the Cincinnati Bengals, because as much as we love the Browns, we love it being other people's shit, right? Like. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.